Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. Well, I'm going to talk about something right now that some of you are going to be interested in and some of you just won't be interested in it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I definitely think what I'm about to talk about is something that we all need to be considering. Okay, we all need to be considering this. First of all, I'm going to give you the title. This article has literally been one of the tabs at the top of my computer screen for at least a week and a half. And so in looking at it, I said, I need to talk about this. I know some of my viewing audience will be interested, some won't. But anyway, the title is Educated Youth Should Be Accepting Farming as a Calling. Now, some of you might be like, what is this woman talking about? Calling? A calling? Farming? Yes. Now, imagine this for one moment. You go to the store. Now, first of all, I want to back up a little bit. Forget about just educated youth. I think anyone who eats food should be listening to what I'm talking about. Anyone who sees how bad the economy is getting, how rough things are getting. Anyone who understands what it means to be hungry should be paying attention to what I'm going to be talking about in this video. But when I saw that they are saying that this should be viewed as a calling, these are people who see the handwriting on the wall. And many of us see it, but some of us don't want to move or act in that direction because we've gotten so used to things being readily available to us, being able to go to the store and just pick up something off the shelf and just pull open a door, get something out of their freezer, put it in the basket and have them ring it up. Now, of course, that is an option that's on the table right now, but how long will that option be on the table? That is the one thing that we are not considering. I have to remember to bring this mic closer so that we're not getting that distant sounding audio. Someone mentioned to me in the chat. I'm sorry, not in the chat, but in the comment section. But anyway, when you look at the big picture and you realize that something is definitely going on in the economy, with the food markets, with all of this, farming has changed tremendously. A lot of crops have failed. You have trees, orange trees and things that are getting diseases and they have no idea how to control these diseases. So much is happening and people are not paying attention. And so when I see an article, and as a matter of fact, this is coming out of Ghana, y'all. It says the former president of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, has strongly encouraged the youth to go into farming. Now, what people don't consider, because farming is not glamorous to most people. Me personally, I love farming and agriculture and raising livestock and putting my hands in the soil. I love that kind of thing. Okay. So it's not a big deal. But when you are a person who is, say, a white collar worker, or you're someone who's into entertainment, you're a singer, a rapper, a dancer, or anything that doesn't deal with putting your hands in the dirt, and someone tells you better consider growing your own food, you're going to look at them like they're crazy. Like, why do I need to grow my own food? I can just go to a restaurant. I can go to the grocery store. I can go here or there. I can go to mama's house and she can make me something, When you have that mindset of thinking that it's always going to be that easy to get your hands on some food, of course, when someone talks to you about farming, you're going to just kind of like change the channel or click on another video or go somewhere else because this ain't what you want to talk about. You don't want to hear about this. But what if I told you? What if I told you it's going to become very necessary for you to know how to grow your own food? What if I told you it's going to be a necessary skill in trade because things are going from bad to worse? Now, we are so used to other countries experiencing these hardships and having a difficult time of getting this and getting that. And so we're like, well, you know what? We're not a third world country. Our government they got this. They're not going to let that happen to people here in the U.S. As long as you have that mindset, that means you have a dependent mindset. You are dependent on someone outside of you to meet a need that you have. Now, to some degree, we are all dependent because, as I mentioned before, these lights, they wouldn't work if there wasn't an electric company to provide the service. Now, getting solar panels, that is something that's very expensive to do, but I also see that as something that is necessary as well. But again, you have to take baby steps. If you can't afford solar panels, then you got to pay somebody an electric bill, right? With heat, depending on where you live, you can solve that problem too if you have a fireplace. But again, fireplaces are something that people they just don't want to deal with. They don't want the fuss, chopping wood. Who wants to chop wood? Who has time to chop wood? That is the attitude that a lot of people take. Now, in our previous home, we had a fireplace. That was our primary source of heat. It was a really old house. And because it was the ceilings were so tall, it was very difficult to heat that old house. So you had to continuously feed the fireplace. It was actually a wood burning stove, but you know what I mean. You had to constantly feed this thing to keep the heat going. You see? And so we all kind of had gotten used to chopping wood. You see? All of us, we were out there chopping wood and we would stack it and do all of this. And when it was time to bring it in so you can feed the fireplace. You know, everybody did their part to survive and take care of that need. But think about this. Back in the day, that's how people did it. There was no gas company or propane and all of this other stuff to heat yourself. There was no furnace. You were the furnace by feeding the fireplace. But many of us, we frown on those things. We're like, you know what? I can't do that. What if you had no choice? What if you had no choice but to go chop some wood, even chop a tree down to even get the wood, and then split it all up into nice little pieces that you can feed into a fireplace? Most of us can't even imagine doing that type of work, and you look at it like it's not a necessity and something that you don't feel you need to know how to do. But what if you had no choice? Now, let's talk about that running water. Back in the day, there was no such thing as a water company that can feed all the water through the pipes into all these individual houses. Okay? And even the wells that you have today, we have a well, but it's a different kind of well than what they had back in the day, where you had to actually draw your water up from out of the earth. You see, now they have mechanisms that feed the water up through the pipes. But even if you didn't have that and you had to get water from a well, how many would be willing to do that? How many would be willing to dip their buckets down and pull up what they needed? See, we've gotten so used to modern day conveniences that the thought of not having electricity, the thought of not having running water, the thought of not having a furnace that you can just turn the heat on. Some of us can't even wrap our brains around that. And so, essentially, to some degree, we all depend on someone or something outside of us. And that is a very bad place to be. It's not a good place to be, because if these systems fail, then you are either out in the dark, out in the cold, or without water. Now, let's get back to the food. I did a video too where I was talking about the trucking system and how many had lost their jobs, right? Now, what if things got so rough to where a lot of companies had to ground their trucks and they could no longer roll across the roads, because these trucks are what bring all of our goods to us. All of these trucks, trains, airplanes, they are transported by these vehicles, whether it's an airplane or a train or a truck. And if these things are no longer in operation, then what do we do? The first thing that's going to happen is everyone is going to make a mad dash to their local grocery store, whatever that may be. And the shelves will be cleared very quickly. And when there's that last loaf of bread, for those of you who buy bread from the grocery store, there are going to be 10 eyes on that loaf of bread at one time. And everyone is going to scramble to get that loaf of bread, that last loaf. And so then essentially neighbors become enemies because there is no end in sight of the food shortage, because nobody thought ahead to say, what can I do to secure my family? Now, from time to time, when I talk about these things, I will get those who will say, well, not everyone has land to grow food on, or not everyone is able to do this. Not everyone can afford it, or some of us live in apartments. I get all of those different comments, right? In previous videos, I've even talked about solutions in those situations. Okay. I've talked about solutions in those situations, and the solution being, you have family, you have friends. Somebody needs to sit down with somebody. A group of you all need to get together and say, well, look, grandma got a yard. Let's ask grandma if we can take a section. Now, I know it's easier said than done, because some of our people are selfish. I get that. That's why sometimes having these types of talks, you say to yourself, well, what situation is this person going to deal with? Do they have a grandmother who even cares for them? You see, do they have family members who will even bother to listen? So then you don't stop there. You don't just stop at your family. You go to your friends and you talk to your friends and say, look, this is what's happening. This is what we need to do. And if you say, well, look, I don't even have any friends. There have been local churches. As a matter of fact, that's another story that I wanted to talk about, how this one pastor, he said he don't want to just pray for people. He wants to show them the way. And so he started an initiative that was very similar to something that I saw another church in North Carolina do, where the churches have gotten involved with feeding the community, not by just handing out food baskets, telling people, hey, come on Thursday and we'll give you a box of food. They said, no, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this empty lot, that empty lot, that empty lot. As a matter of fact, we're going to take this whole empty block, and we are all going to get together and get ourselves out here and plant some food. Because get this, for what it costs you to buy a burger from McDonald's, for those of you who still go to that place, you can get a pack of seeds. That's how simple it is. But you've got to understand, you got to know. First of all, you have to understand and know the importance of what I'm talking about. This is why it was said to this group of young people that you need to make farming your passion. You need to make that your future. You need to make that your goal, your calling. When I saw that, I said, man, farming as a calling. Now, don't think of it as something that's boring. Bump all of that. Forget boring. It ain't got nothing to do with boring. This is necessity. When you pay attention to what's going on in the world and in the economy, you will see it as a necessity. And that is what this man is talking about when he was telling these young people to see this as a calling. What I find interesting is a lot of times young people, young men, I'm going to talk to young men, but it's for you young women too. But young men, once they get out there, some of them get so inspired to where they take it to the hood. I've seen a number of brothers, and I've talked about some over the years, who actually made farming their calling. They really did here in the U.S. We ain't talking about Ghana. I'm talking about here in the U.S. I wish I can remember the name. It was let me see, look it up and see if I can find the video. It was a young man. He actually made a rap song about his farming initiative. And yeah. Okay, don't take this wrong. This is the name of his song, okay? Wait a minute. I'm not finding his. I'm finding Okay, well, anyway, I'm finding the rap version of it, but he mimicked the rap, and he was talking about growing food. I'm not going to say what the title is because I can't find it. If I find the video, I will put it in the description box below. But he took a rap song that people like, and he just kind of turned it into a farming initiative. He's in the hood growing food. He's in the hood growing food, and he turned this. Okay, all right, here it is. I found it. But it's a rap song too. It's called G's Up, HOES Down. But it's not the kind that the rapper was talking about. It's talking about in the garden, if you know what I mean. And so this young man, this video and his initiative really inspired me. He's out there in the hood, in the garden. I was going to play a bit of it here, but I found the link. And guess what? Young man? He looked cool. He looked cool. He got his shades on. He's doing this little thing that they do when they're singing. Got his little t-shirts and his little outfit on to represent what he's doing. But guess what? He is growing food in the hood, and this young man is proud to do so. Yeah, it's called G's Up, HOES Down. But it's not that one. Okay, it is growing food, using it in the garden. You see, the song had a catchy tune as well. As a matter of fact, I see here 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I actually left a comment on the video. I said, I love it. Awesome. Okay, so you can tell how long I've been at this. But I was so inspired. But let me tell you something about this young man's video. It's been up since November 17th, 2012. So that's a long time ago. It's 7 some odd years ago, right? Because we're just now getting into 2020. But the video only has 3,887 views. Okay? And the reason is because our people just don't get it. They are not interested in this sort of thing, even though he has a really good sound to his song and he's pushing something really positive. The fact that he has only 3,887 views shows that our people just don't get it and they are not interested. But you will become interested when you can no longer go to the grocery store to buy food. When there is no more help from the government, then all of a sudden everyone will be interested in what this young man is doing. I hope to inspire you, young men especially, and you young women, because I have another story that I'm going to share about a young woman that was very, very thought-provoking, because a lot of young women find themselves in situations. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of it here. She was in college and she has a child, but that didn't stop her. But there was an issue of needing a place to live. And so I want to talk about how she solved that issue, how her mother helped her to solve that issue. And it was a very, very unique idea. I love the idea, and so I definitely want to talk about it. But again, don't look at farming and growing food and learning how to raise animals and livestock and hunting and all of that stuff like something boring that your grandfather did. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as a necessity, because when the crap hits the fan, you're going to need to know how to do some of these things so that you don't have to go out here busting people upside their head in order to have food on the table. Okay? It is what it is, family. I hope that I've said something that will be thought-provoking to you. I hope that you will consider, even as a young man, doing what some of these young men are doing. The young man who is growing food in the hood, the young men who are being taught in Ghana to make growing food and farming a calling. Okay? Think about it. You will become the hero in the hood. With that, I will say shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.